D-Lo 404. Shout out to the LDBC. Welcome back to my subscribers and repeat viewers. New to the channel, I ask that you please subscribe. Feeling the content, please like, share, and comment. Excuse me. There's a lot of people asking the question, should Errol Spence leave PBC because these guys in the PBC aren't fighting him? And basically saying that, Al Haven advising all of them and managing some of them and so forth and so on, as if Errol should see that as Al Haven's not doing his job or whatever, and maybe he needs to move on. My opinion of that is, I can understand where those people are coming from and asking that question. I can even understand where Errol would be coming from if that entered his thought process. But I think there's something to be said about loyalty as well. Errol Spence got to the heights that he's gotten to off of his work rate, his work ethic, his hard work and willingness to get in there and take the tough fights and dare to be great. Went overseas, went over to England to challenge Kell Brook for a title, and when it looked like he was never going to get that shot, and he did what he had to do to make the fight happen, and he went over there and took the fight in hostile territory and got that W. He beat some pretty good fighters along the way, and he's beat some pretty good fighters since. But it's one of those things where you can be too much of a good thing, and it affects the people who should be mixing it up with you. It's like you're too good for your own good, so to speak. But none of that's Errol's fault. I don't think that's not Eddie Hearn. I don't think that's Al Haven's fault. And honestly, from my vantage point, I don't think leaving the PBC helps him. Because, it was said that maybe, go over there to ESPN. You got Terrence Crawford over there. Yeah, I mean, he do that, but then after Terrence Crawford, what are you doing? Waiting on Al Haven to sign other guys? Because if you go over there and beat Terrence Crawford, nobody's going to want to see him fight the guys that Terrence Crawford already beat. Or, you know what I'm saying? And it's really just, they just don't have that welterweight stable over there. What needs to happen is, that these networks need to work together. We don't need another stalemate like we had with HBO and Showtime refusing to cooperate when it comes to certain fights. And basically, the excuse of the Cold War being the reason guys aren't fighting one another. And, you know what I'm saying? Honestly, that stuff bodes well for promoters who can continuously make in-house fights and use that as an excuse. That way they're maximizing their revenue off of their fighters, because they're not having to cut some other promotional outfit or management team into the fold, into the deal. So, I never really been a fan of those BS excuses. But what I want to see is pressure from the sanctioning bodies to make these guys fight the guys they should be fighting. I want to see more pressure from the fans. I want to see push from management, especially when a manager's managing multiple guys that all should be fighting each other, to say, hey, you guys need to be fighting. Because, the bottom line is you got a bunch of fighters out there who are afraid to take L's. Even the ones that have taken some L's, they're afraid to take another L. So it's like they aren't challenging themselves in fights that they feel like they have more to lose than they do to gain. Or that the odds are that they're going to lose more so than they're in their favor to win. Sean Porter felt he could beat Danny Garcia. That's why he got in the ring the way he did. Sean Porter wanted that WBC belt bad enough that he would risk losing to Danny Garcia to try to get that belt because of what that belt brought along with it. See, the thing about that belt is that brings along built-in excuses to not fight certain guys because you have those mandatories. So you can say, well, I got to fight my mandatory, and try to use that excuse to get by. We just saw that happen with the heavyweights, where one guy was basically trying to make a fight, and the other guy used his mandatory as an excuse not to make the fight. So that, and I'm not saying it's the only reason Sean wanted that green belt. I know all about the luster that the green belt brings. I know all about the desire that these fighters have to be WBC champion. I get that. But my whole point is, Sean could have very well went for that IBF title, but he had no interest in winning his old title back. He seemed to have no interest in trying to get it back from Kell Brook either. So, but as far as Errol Spence goes, I just think all he can do at this point is fight the guys that get in front of him. And if it gets to a point where, the guys that should be fighting aren't fighting, he's probably going to have to fight the guys that will fight him, even if he shouldn't be fighting them, like guys like Canelo and stuff like that, guys that are a weight class above him and things like that. And I honestly feel like the thing with Errol Spence is, I think once he goes up to 54 or 60 or whatever he does, I think it's going to be a disadvantage for him to come back down to welterweight at that point. And what could very well happen is he winds up squeezing himself back down to 47 and ends up in a tougher than should be fight, or get beat by somebody who would have never beat him before he went up and came back down. So I personally feel like if he ever has to go up, I want him to be ready to go up and ready to just turn the page on the welterweight division, because I don't want to see him move up to 154, 160, and then come back down and struggle with a guy that he never would have struggled with, just because his body has adjusted to carrying that extra weight in the ring, and then had to come back down and having a harder time making weight. So, but at the end of the day, when it comes to all this stuff, man, I can't say anything bad about Errol Spence in this situation. I just think it speaks volumes to who he is as a fighter that these guys are fighting. We've seen this before with other guys. We've seen Paul Williams go through this situation where there was the welterweight division was loaded, and he wasn't getting fights with any other guys. He ended up moving up to 154, eventually 160. I think he went back down. He kind of like skipped and hopped around to get the fights that he could get, because, even though he had a title, them guys at 47 weren't interested in fighting. And we've seen it with a lot of other guys too. Paul Williams, one of my favorite fighters, so that comes to mind because I followed his career so closely. But as far as him, again, leaving Al Haymon, we don't know what kind of agreement he has with Al Haymon. We don't know if he signed some deal that says, he has to stay with PBC a certain amount of time or whatever. We don't know what all goes into helping PBC get the kind of money that they get for the contract renewals and things that they get with these networks. They may have to have these fighters on the contract and show these networks, that, hey, we got this guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy on the contract until this time right here. And that all plays a part into how they're able to secure the kind of backing that they do. So, if that's all a part of it, then these guys may be locked in for a certain term where they're not able to just walk when they get ready to walk. They may be able to, sign with a promoter still, but at the same time, they're still managed and advised by Al Haymon, PBC. So, I don't know. I don't know the intricacies of that. I'm just saying that that's a possibility. But I don't want to see Errol Spence drag up and go somewhere else, because I can see much of the same going on no matter where he is, to be honest. The lion's share of the fighters are right there, and his weight division are right there where he is. I don't see where going somewhere where there are less welterweight fighters helping this situation. So, again, none of this is his fault. I just want to see Errol Spence get the fights he wants to get and see what happens. You know what I'm saying? I definitely want to see that Terrence Crawford fight, but I don't see it. I don't see that it's necessary for him to leave Al Haymon to get that fight. I just think that they need to come together and make that fight when they're ready to make it. I just personally don't think the guys are ready to make the fight yet. But that's my opinion. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Shout out to the LDBC. Shout out New Media. I appreciate your viewership. I'm moving on.